Liam stepped into the vast, dome-shaped hall of the Galactic Academy for the first time, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes, some with more than two turned towards him. As the only human in the class, he had grown used to being watched with curiosity and sometimes disdain. Deathworlders, as humans were called by the rest of the galaxy, were often considered unpredictable, fragile, or outright dangerous. To Liam, this place felt like a distant echo of his past classroom back on Earth. Except now, instead of classmates like himself, he was surrounded by towering, bizarre figures from planets scattered across the universe. The Galactic Academy was renowned for its rigorous tests of intellect and logic, having developed methods to sharpen the minds of students from dozens of species. Liam knew he was at a disadvantage. Most of the students had grown up with advanced technological education systems, while Earth, despite its rapid progress, still lagged behind. He had studied, of course, crammed every galactic subject he could find, but there was always that lingering feeling of being out of place in this alien institution. Today was the day of the exalin logic test, an exam known to alien students as a foundational exercise in basic cognitive development. To them, it was something they had been practicing since childhood, like a simple riddle they could solve with ease. The exalin were a highly intelligent species with advanced problem-solving capabilities, their four eyes able to process vast amounts of information at once. Their tests were designed to hone instinctive logical reactions, requiring the students to recognize and complete complex patterns. Liam looked around the room, taking in the diverse array of students. There was Kara, a towering lizard-like being from the planet Jurath, known for her strength and speed but also her quick thinking ability. Next to her sat Velix, a small spherical alien from Nebor 7, whose translucent body pulsed with light every time he processed new information. There were over a dozen others, each from a different corner of the galaxy, each staring confidently at the holoscreens that would soon display the test. The exalin professor, Master Velmor, hovered above the class, perched on a floating platform. His four eyes blinked in rhythmic succession, his pale green skin glowing faintly under the classroom lights. His voice, calm and authoritative, reverberated through the hall as he addressed the students. "Today you will be undertaking the first stage of your logical training," Master Velmor announced. The exalin logic test is simple yet elegant, a true test of cognitive speed and precision. All of you have been preparing for this for years, but now we shall see who among you is the quickest and most efficient. Complete the patterns, solve the riddles, and prove your readiness for higher learning. The students shifted in their seats, some eager, others relaxed. They had done this 100 times before. Liam, however, felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He hadn't grown up with these exercises, and though he understood the basic premise, the complexity of alien thought patterns often escaped him. Earth's logic wasn't built the same way, but he had no choice now he was here, and he had to try. As the test began, the holo screens in front of each student blinked to life, displaying intricate shapes, sequences, and symbols. The task seemed straightforward to the alien students: identify the patterns, predict the next step, and complete the series. But for Liam, each pattern felt like an unsolvable puzzle. The first problem showed a sequence of geometric shapes, a hexagon shifting into a square, then into a triangle, and back to a hexagon, each change accompanied by a subtle alteration in color. For the alien students, the change was instinctual. They saw the pattern immediately and completed it within seconds. Liam, however, stared at the screen in confusion. Where the others saw simple progression, he saw chaos. His brain struggled to make sense of the alien logic. The symbols seemed to defy everything he had learned about sequences on Earth. He tapped his stylus against the screen, unsure where to begin. His fingers hesitated. Was the next shape supposed to be a pentagon? A circle? Did the color matter? Or was it just a distraction? His mind raced, trying to fit the pieces together, but each possibility seemed just as wrong as the last. Across the room, the students were finishing the first set of problems with ease. Kira had already moved on to the second phase, her thick, scaly fingers effortlessly gliding across her screen. Velix pulsed with light as he zoomed through the sequences, solving each one faster than Liam could even process. Frustration welled up inside him. How could they make it look so easy? He had always prided himself on being a quick learner, but now, surrounded by these alien minds, he felt like an outsider in every possible way. The room was silent except for the occasional hum of the holoscreens. Liam could feel the weight of his classmates' gazes, even if they weren't looking directly at him. They expected him to fail. He was the human, the Deathworlder, the one who didn't belong. But Liam wasn't one to give up so easily. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and then opened them with renewed determination. If he couldn't see the logic in the test, maybe he could create his own. Humans were known for their creativity, their ability to think outside the box. Maybe that was his advantage. These aliens were too rigid in their thinking, too focused on following the predetermined rules of the test. But what if the solution wasn't about following the rules at all? What if the point was to find a new way to solve the problem? He glanced back at the screen and suddenly saw it differently. The shapes, the colors, they didn't need to follow the expected progression. What if the test wasn't just about predicting the next step in the sequence? What if it was about creating a new pattern altogether? With a new burst of confidence, Liam began drawing his own shapes, combining elements from the previous steps but altering them in subtle ways. He shifted the hexagon into a spiral, turned the square into a series of interlocking rings, and changed the colors into a gradient that faded from blue to green. To the untrained eye, it might have looked chaotic, but to Liam, it was a new kind of logic, one based on creativity rather than strict adherence to the rules. The timer on the screen ticked down as he worked, but Liam didn't feel the pressure anymore. He was in his element now, using his human instincts to solve the problem in a way that no alien student could have imagined. When he finished the sequence, he leaned back in his seat, unsure of what would happen next. Master Velmore's voice echoed through the hall. "Time is up. Please submit your answers." Liam glanced around the room. The other students had finished long before him, their screens already dark. He submitted his answers with a slight tremor in his hand, knowing that what he had done was unconventional at best. As the results processed, the room fell into an anxious silence. One by one, the student scores appeared on the screens. Kara had finished with a near-perfect score, her logic and speed earning her top marks. Alex, too, had done exceptionally well, his natural ability to process information making him one of the quickest students in the class. Then, finally, Liam's score appeared. The room went silent. His name flashed across the screen, and next to it, an unexpected result error detected. Solution incomplete but efficient. Whispers broke out among the students. Error? Incomplete? What did that even mean? Liam's heart sank. Had he failed? Was his creative solution not enough? But then, Master Velmore floated down from his platform, his 4 eyes locked on Liam. "Interesting," the professor said, his voice low and contemplative. "It seems the human has discovered an alternate solution." The air in the Galactic Academy's lecture hall was thick with tension. Liam sat frozen, unsure of how to react to Master Velmore's statement. An alternate solution, the words echoed in his mind. Was that a compliment, or a polite way of telling him he had failed? Around him, the other students murmured in confusion, their disbelief palpable. No one had ever received a result like Liam's before. The exalin logic test had been administered for centuries, and its rules were absolute. There was always one right answer. Or so everyone had thought. Master Velmore floated silently, his 4 eyes scanning Liam's screen, analyzing the pattern that had caused such a stir. The professor's pale green fingers tapped lightly on the edge of his floating podium, as if contemplating something of great significance. The alien students in the room shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The results had been expected to be routine, a confirmation of their intellectual superiority over the human. Instead, Liam had done something none of them anticipated. He had broken the unspoken rules of the test. Velmore's voice broke the silence. "Liam, explain your thought process." Liam gulped, suddenly feeling every set of eyes on him. His palms were sweaty, and his mind raced to come up with a coherent explanation. He hadn't planned on disrupting anything. He had simply followed his instincts when the traditional solution didn't make sense to him. How could he explain creativity in a place so bound by rules and structure? Well, he began hesitantly. The shapes. They didn't seem to follow a logical pattern, at least not one I could understand. So instead of trying to predict what came next based on a pattern I couldn't see, I thought I'd make my own. He looked around, gauging the reactions of his classmates. Most of the aliens were glaring at him, their expressions unreadable but clearly disapproving. I tried to use elements of the shapes we were given, but I modified them. I thought maybe the point of the test was to find a new way to solve it, not just follow the same logic everyone else does. Velmore's eyes narrowed, but not in the way Liam expected. He seemed intrigued, as though Liam's words had sparked some hidden curiosity within him. You created your own logic. Liam nodded. In a way, yes. On Earth, we often approach problems from different angles. Sometimes the answer isn't about finding the one right solution, it's about discovering new possibilities. The room was so silent that Liam could hear his own breathing. Velix, the small, pulsing alien beside him, flickered with what seemed to be a mix of confusion and awe. Kara's large, reptilian eyes narrowed, and her tail twitched in annoyance. She had finished the test in record time using traditional methods, and now, here was this human, claiming that the test had more than one correct solution. This test, Velmore continued, was designed to enhance cognitive speed by recognizing set patterns. It has been a standard for galactic education for centuries, and never once has there been a deviation from the established answers. Yet, you suggest that your deviation is also correct. Liam didn't know how to respond. He hadn't come into the test intending to disrupt centuries of tradition. I don't know if it's correct, he admitted. But it worked for me. Velmore floated back, seemingly deep in thought. Your results, he said, are unconventional, to say the least. The system did not know how to process your answers. It deemed them efficient, but incomplete. This is not a result we have ever encountered. The murmurs among the students grew louder. Some looked at Liam with disdain, others with curiosity, and a few, like Velix, seemed genuinely intrigued by what had just happened. Kira's reptilian jaw clenched, and she folded her muscular arms, clearly displeased that her perfect score had been overshadowed by this strange development. Velmore raised a hand, silencing the room. Liam's result is unprecedented, but it raises a larger question. Is there truly only one way to solve a problem? The class fell into a stunned silence. This was a question none of them had ever considered. The Galactic Academy was built on the principle that there was always one optimal answer, one path to success. Yet now, Velmore, one of the Academy's most respected instructors, was questioning that very foundation. Velmore's voice grew thoughtful. The test was designed by the exalin to measure cognitive efficiency. But perhaps we have overlooked an important aspect of intelligence: creativity, the ability to think beyond the obvious, to challenge the rules and, in doing so, find new ways to solve problems. Liam's heart raced. He hadn't expected this. In a place so steeped in tradition, could one small deviation really lead to such a profound discussion? The professor turned to the rest of the class. What do you all think? Should Liam's answers be dismissed simply because they do not follow the expected logic? Or should we consider the possibility that his approach, while unconventional, has merit? Kiora was the first to speak, her deep voice rumbling through the room. The test is designed to measure logical thinking, not creativity. His answers don't fit the criteria. He didn't solve the problems, he avoided them. A few other students nodded in agreement. Velmore listened carefully but didn't interrupt. Velix's small body pulsed with light as he spoke up. But isn't it possible that there are multiple forms of intelligence? Liam's way of thinking might be different, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Maybe there's more to learning than just following a set path. The debate quickly escalated, with students from all corners of the galaxy chiming in. Some, like Kira, argued that tradition and established methods should always be prioritized. Others, like Velix, suggested that the very purpose of education was to expand one's understanding, and that Liam's approach represented a new frontier in learning. Liam sat quietly, listening to the discussion he had inadvertently sparked. His palms still felt sweaty, and his heart was pounding, but there was a strange sense of pride building inside him. He hadn't intended to disrupt the system, but now that it had happened, he realized that maybe this was exactly what the Academy needed: a challenge to its rigid structures. After what felt like an eternity, Velmore raised his hand again, bringing the room to silence. This debate, he said slowly, is exactly the kind of discussion we should be having. Perhaps we have been too focused on a single path to success. Liam's answers were not what we expected, but they have opened a door to new possibilities. I will take this matter to the Academy's council for further consideration. The tension in the room shifted. No one knew what to say. Had the Galactic Academy, the pinnacle of intellectual training in the galaxy, just been shaken by the actions of one human student? As the class ended and the students filed out, Liam remained seated for a moment, trying to process everything that had happened. Felix paused beside him, his body pulsing gently. "I think you did something amazing today," the small alien said quietly. "You made them think. That's more important than any test score." Liam smiled weakly. "I wasn't trying to cause trouble." Felix's light flickered with amusement. "Sometimes trouble is exactly what's needed." As Felix floated away, Liam stood up, feeling the weight of what had just happened. He had come to the Galactic Academy expecting to learn, but today he had taught the Academy something instead. Whether or not his answers would be accepted by the Council was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: Liam's presence had already made an impact. The next day, whispers filled the halls of the Academy. News of Liam's alternate solution spread like wildfire. Some students viewed him as a disruptor, someone who had undermined the traditions they held dear. Others, however, began to see him as a symbol of possibility, proof that there was more than one way to approach a problem. Liam noticed subtle changes in the way his classmates interacted with him. Kara still shot him icy glares, her pride clearly wounded by the attention he had received. But Felix had become a fast friend, always eager to discuss new ideas and possibilities. As the days passed, Liam's unique perspective continued to influence the students, and even some of the professors. Discussions in class became more open-ended, with instructors encouraging students to think beyond the obvious. The Academy, once a place where conformity was prized above all else, was beginning to change.